Welcome back, everyone, to 100 Days of Prayer. If I'm not mistaken, we're in week 7. Is that correct? Yes. So it's lovely to see all of you. So happy that we can be together for this wonderful class with Dr. Marj, Britt, and 100 Days of Prayer.
And hello, everyone. What a joy it is for me to realize that here we are, gathering together from all parts of the country, all parts of the world, with that amazing, beautiful energy field of light that surrounds the globe, that touches every one of us, consciously or unconsciously, with our awareness of it or without it. It's there anyway. Always, already, it has been with us from the moment of our birth. And in all of the moments of joy, in all of the moments of sorrow, in all of the moments of not knowing, in all of the moments of craziness. If any of you got several emails yesterday, those were an example of moments of craziness. Fabian and I had the experience of our uh, internet going down the day before the call, before we had sent out the email, and it was like a moment of, do we get frantic, or do we just invite the Holy Spirit to solve it one moment at a time? That was my choice. Fabian is much better at the technology aspect of it. I'm really good at the Holy Spirit aspect of it. So, really, if we just stay with our own awareness of what we're really good at, um, that's probably the best thing for us to do, and invite those who know more about the other parts of it to join us, partner with us, show us the way when we don't know how. It just recognize that every single moment of our life is a prayer. Every single moment that we experience life and interact with life, we are living a prayer. We are revealing the vibrational field of our own being, interrelating with the vibrational field of whatever is going on around us. Our feelings are representative of where we are emotionally, psychologically. If we're in a bliss state, the feelings of bliss, which are beyond bliss, they're all consuming, are coming from even a higher state of vibration and awareness that is very rare. So, what I want you to know is that I wrote one of the most um, unedited emails that I've written in my entire life this week. I talked about things that I normally would never have put in an email, that some of which were very, very personal, but veiled. That's one of the ways that and that's in my book also. Things that I said in very veiled ways for those who have the ears to hear, the eyes to understand, and the eyes to see. Those are the words of Jesus. And yet, in that email, I mentioned some things I got in a dream. That is really sharing a part of your deepest essence, because it has your conscious rational mind has no control. You're sound asleep in the middle of the night. Your intellect, your human mind is taking a rest. That's the one time that spirit, the all that is, or whatever wants to move in and communicate with you, uh, can bypass your human mind. And so sometimes our human plane interests come in. Sometimes things that are way beyond our human mind. So one of the images that I want to show you today actually comes from beyond the human mind. One of the ways we sometimes get messages from beyond is in music, in art, in symbols, in things that we see in unique ways. And I'll be talking about some of those as we go throughout our call today. I'm wanting to have a conversation today, really looking forward to it with Rebecca. And Judy, I'm so glad to see you here. I didn't have a chance to call you today, but I loved your talking about your synchronicity. I think that Rebecca will be amazed when she hears what your synchronicity is. Synchronicities are one of the ways that the universe, spirit, the all that is, whatever you want to call it, actually communicates with us. And if you experience a synchronicity in your life, you can be almost sure that what's going on is something related to a message that is coming from the divine, from the all that is, from spirit, from whatever you want to call it. So be aware of that. And Christy, go ahead and do this screen share and let me talk over it just a little bit. This screen share actually is a screenshot that I actually took when I was involved in a conference over the weekend. And it was a wonderful, absolutely wonderful conference called Celebrating Mystical Community. It was hosted by two people, and they're now calling themselves the Integral Christian Network. And one of those people was Paul Smith, who I've known since I was in seminary. And that was when I was in ministerial school, that was 1985 and 1986 and 1987. So at that point in time, you were required to do 2 years at Unity Village as part of your program. And I did. And that's when I met Paul Smith, who was a Baptist minister, Southern Baptist minister at Broadway Baptist Church. He is now in the realms of very, very profound mysticism. He found his way there through Integral and Ken Wilber, and now he's gone into realms beyond it. He calls it beyond Wilber. It's not saying that he's higher than Wilber. In fact, he brought me into an awareness of some of the questions that I've been having in my own mind, which were probably interrelated to my dream. The question that I was most profoundly aware of had to do with my own work with the Stages Quick Score that quite a few of you have taken. I hope more of you do. And the question was, what is Love Stages Quick Score or computer scored inventory really showing? Is it showing our center of gravity in our destiny path, where we are in the world, our divine mission in the world? Is it showing our leading edge? Is it showing our trailing edge? I had not answered that question myself. After the call with Paul Smith and Luke, the person that works with him in a very similar way to the way Fabian works with me, I knew the answer clearly. It was about destiny path. It's about the divine plan, your purpose, and it's not about the leading edge. It's not about the trailing edge, and it will show you the destiny path. It's related to the verse in the Bible where Jesus says, your sheep will hear your voice. And uh, that's enough to say about that. So let's talk about this picture. And I took it as a screenshot. If any of you know how to do that, you're welcome to do it with this right now. If you want a big picture of it, of your own, if you don't know how to do that, send me a private email and I'll send it to you. But take a look, this little arrow evidently was in the screenshot when I took it, and it's not Christy's, it's not mine. So obviously Spirit wanted me to recognize that baby that is the essence of the all that is being born. That is you. I would say at least 3 or 4 times in your life. Because as Rebecca and I will talk about at one point, when we had a beautiful hour-long conversation together, Rebecca, one of the first things she said to me was, I feel like I'm repeating patterns in my life. And I said, you are. And then we had a wonderful, wonderful deep dive conversation about that repeating patterns. This baby will be born again every time you go into a new repeating pattern in your life. And this spiral is like the double spiral that I'll talk about later, because it takes you higher and deeper. And it's a double spiral because as you go one level, and this comes from Thomas Keating, that Paul studied with so deeply for so many years, and we used his work when Paul and I did the silent meditation, 5-day silent meditation retreats. And some of you have been to some of those. We did them in California. We did them in Kansas City. Ed was at one in Kansas City. And we did many of them in California. Paul did many of them in Colorado that I wasn't involved with. We did one at a Catholic retreat center that was just amazing. And I chose the room to sleep in that the Pope had slept in when he visited that retreat center. I thought, wouldn't it be fun to sleep in the same bed as the Pope? I have a strange sense of humor sometimes. But I believe that where our bodies rest, where our bodies lie, actually there are vibrational fields. And so you see, every time we go to a level that's higher, it shines the light on a level that is darker. And so here you see, and a little bit of this is cut off, but it's an archetypal figure that is coming in with a sword. And this is the realm of where the level darker shows up in my dream as ice and snow. That ice and snow has to be dissolved, has to be healed. Love is the healer. When it is healed and integrated into your double spiral, it takes you to your next platform and the essence of the all that is, the galaxy, the cosmic journey, the journey of your soul. Your soul is eternal. You have had the same soul through multiple lifetimes. It's part of you always already. Many people at Unity in Tustin for many years, when we were doing the deep dives there and Conscious Covenant, many of them said, it feels like we were one soul. And we even started having dreams, doing dream work, where we were dreaming the same dream, but different parts of the dream. That was fascinating. Fabian still occasionally hosts those calls with David, who now lives in Northern California. He uses a dream work somewhat similar to the training that I had, which was based in Gestalt and Jungian frameworks. And I learned it when I was in training to be a Gestalt therapist before I ever went to ministerial school. Was with a psychotherapist and beautiful soul in Kansas City. Byron Eicher was his name. And he had trained with Fritz Perls. and also at the Chicago Jungian Institute, and also in psychosynthesis. I mean, he was the kind of a soul that just reached out to bring in multiple perspectives and integrate them all into an integrated journey. It's part of the way I've learned to do that in my own life and in my own teaching. And interestingly, in my uh, dream, uh, there is an indication of that with the word Rankin, Rankin. And I did talk to Blair Tabor this morning and found out more of that. So we are celebrating a mystical community today from that weekend journey. And Judy, I'm so delighted that you decided to dive in and do that also, because you and I can talk about it in deeper ways because we were both there. We both got all of the recordings of it. And I absolutely love this one that shows you the galaxies in the far, and then spirit. Although I'm not sure spirit has a human face like this, but this, whoa, I just got it. I got corrected by spirit. That's not spirit, that's you in an illuminated phase. So all of us, this is a spiral we're on from birth through the double spiral. Here's the lion that will dissolve some of the shadow material and cut it through with a sword. It will turn into flowers that bloom. It will take us into the galaxies. And at that point in time, we may in fact function from the realms that we would call our leading edge. It's not our center of gravity. It's not our destiny path. But from the leading edge, we can come back and we can teach all of the realms, going all the way back to this baby. And Rebecca, from your own Love Stages short survey, you can see this baby and what we talked about in those repeating phases. Are you shaking your head? Yes. Yes. And Rebecca may or may not say anything about that today. I told her she didn't have to. Whenever anyone shares about any of the awarenesses that came to them in the Love Stages short survey that's in the beta now and free, um, uh, I'll tell you more about that later, but not now. Um, know that I do not want you to share any of the numbers, because people get into all kinds of ego weirdness. People get into ego weirdness because they think it's trying to judge them or other people will judge them. It's not about that. You can turn those lines sideways. You can make them vertical instead of horizontal. You can flip them upside down. You can make them scrambled. It doesn't care how you do it. You can put it in circles. I've done it all those ways. And so it doesn't have anything to do with higher or lower. That is a total misperception. And so let's go back to me in the speaker view, and let me mention just briefly that I'm so delighted when some of the leadership team shows up on these calls. I'm so glad you're here, Jim DeFontis, and I'm absolutely delighted that Blair Tabor has committed himself to being here when we do deep dives into meaning and purpose. And that's going to be on March 18th. So he'll be one of the people that I do dialogue with. So I'm thrilled that Jim actually asked me how many people were Unity of Tustin people, how many were Called by Love people. It was very, very interesting because we have a really beautiful number of people that are coming and are regulars on the call. More than half are Unity of Tustin, and then a significant number found me through, and Rebecca, remind me to ask you how you found me. Um, Found me through Living Loving Legacy, or through some other way. And so, and some of us, many of us, are part of both platforms. So I think that this is one of the integral pieces of future time for the new church. Until you do the integration of the integral, the internet platforms, and have live stream and all of the kinds of things that people can get all over the country and around the world. We can't ever go back to it just being a bricks and mortar platform, which is what I lived with for most of the 19 years that I was there. My son actually created our first web address, and it's been through 3 or 4 revisions since then. That was in the early 2000s when he did that. And but I came there in 1993, which I'll speak of briefly today. So Christy, bring Rebecca on, unmute her.
Okay.
And I'm going to put us together on speaker view so that we can see each other while we're talking, Rebecca.
Okay. All right. There we go.
Awesome. Fabulous.
Okay.
So we're learning all kinds of new things, and Christy is just fabulously working with Fabian as they learn new things together. And so what they're doing right now is called spotlighting. And you and I, Rebecca, are spotlighted so that we can see each other in the large screen. And I love teaching you some of these things that we're learning as we go along, because ultimately I want you all to know that you are all empowered. You all have gifts of God. You all are called by God. You are called to do significant work in your lives with your own individual tribes that may be interrelated with multiple tribes, like Called by Love and Unity of Tustin are interrelated. I have never seen them separate. Even when other people saw them as separate and didn't want any part of them being integrated, my clear awareness was always that they were integrated. And so, our human views have nothing to do with God views. Our God views, the spirit that is within each one of us is the same. And so if we're finding ourselves disagreeing with each other, it's because we've got some ego stuff going on. We're not in spirit. Our souls may be seeing it through different perspectives. And in the email that I sent out, I talked about how we are 7 billion souls having unique perspectives of light. There's absolutely no way that our 7 billion souls can have the same perspective of light. What the spirit, Unity's basic framework is a trinity. Spirit is at the top, soul is in the middle. Charles Fillmore said the soul was the Holy Spirit. And this is where the soul can access the oneness. And it's the mid-range level. And on David Hawkins' scale, which we talked about last week, it's love and above. And that's the level of 500, or especially 560, unconditional love and above. And then the body, spirit, soul, and body starts at 0 and goes all the way to 500. It goes through the physical realms, the concrete realms, and the subtle realms of thinking and feeling. And this is where we have all of our gyrations that take us into swirling waters and emotions we get caught up in, and feelings like my fallback for many years was running away. Feelings of running away, want to run away. And I've done it multiple times. I learned it from my mother. She ran away to Phoenix when my father died, and she didn't know how to deal with the grief. So, Rebecca, how did you find me?
Well, I found you back in 2020. I had just gone through shutdown here. We here in Michigan, I didn't work from March on, and I was just going through the internet for some reason. Pardon me?
What was your job when you?
I am a massage therapist, and I was surfing. I was just kind of checking things out on the internet, and for some reason, your name came up with, it was a call to love, I think it was. You were doing a phone call, and you were going to air it on the computer. And I think you were talking about the Tustin Gardens, the meditation areas. You had an interview with a young woman. And for some reason, I liked what you said about love and how it just resonated with me. So I signed up for your emails. So every time there was a phone call, I think you do a phone call once a month.
Yes.
Okay. So that's how I started. And there are times when I would listen to the phone calls or the conversation, and then there would be other times when I just couldn't do it. So that's how I found out about you. And you've also mentioned,
I want to just insert a few things. I want Jim DeFontis especially to understand some of this. This kind of coming and going is very similar to what happens in bricks and mortar churches. People will find a church sometimes. Sometimes something they hear really resonates and they come back immediately and they never leave. Other times, and this, people have told me this, they came, they loved what they called the vibration that they felt there. It felt like coming home. But they also told me they couldn't always understand what I said.
yeah.
And sometimes it scared them and they left. And then they would come back maybe 6 months later. So it doesn't mean that you come and stay. It doesn't mean that you become a deep dive member at first. Often you don't do that for a while. And in fact, this is where the idea of concentric circles, the deep dive is where people really have a deep, 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 deep level of commitment. And then there's another ring. It's maybe the once a month people. And then there's another ring that maybe just come to hear a few speakers. And there's another ring of people that are what I call the looky-loos. They're church shopping. Sometimes someone will come in as a church shopper and they thought they were going someplace else the next week and they never leave because they hear your voice. Just like you said, you were talking about love and it drew me in. It's what Jesus is talking about when he says, your sheep will hear your voice. So this isn't about a popularity contest. It's not about somebody being some kind of superpower. It's not that at all. It is about a vibrational field, and it depends on where people are and where the person that's speaking is, and it goes back and forth. So right now, people are going to learn as much from you as they learn from me and from each other as other people become willing to share as off of what we share together. So go ahead, Rebecca, and tell us more.
So, and then I was curious about Tustin. I had no idea where Tustin was. So I Googled, of course, and found out that it was a place in Southern California. And I thought, well, that's interesting because I grew up in Northern California, but I have a sister that lives in Long Beach area. So I thought one of these times I'm going to have to make an effort to come out and spend some time there at the actual property, because I would love to check out the meditation gardens and just check out the atmosphere there. It sounds really wonderful. So that's how I found you. And then of course, then you.
I say that the day will come when people come here from around the world that will become a pilgrimage site. Like people go to Chartres Cathedral in France on a pilgrimage site. The day will come, it may be 10 years from now, it could be 100 years from now. The day will come, if the energy holds, when Unity of Tustin and those meditation gardens will be a pilgrimage site for people around the world.
So then you offered your 100 days of prayer, and without hesitation, I signed up for it. I mean, that's not like something I would do, because normally I kind of look at the stuff, reread it, close the computer and just not really sign up. But I did it without hesitation. Like somebody said, do it. It's time for you to do something. It's time for you to get involved. Take that, as you say, take that deep dive. That's where I'm at.
This is what I call the inner voice.
Yes.
And this is a capital V voice. This is spirit within you. This is your guide within you. This is a higher spirit, soul, body. This is voice coming from spirit or from one of your soul guides that is saying, do it.
Right. And then your first class was, well, it would be nice if I've got an email from all of you and the personal commitment that we would make in that email. And I thought, no, that's not me. I'd love to, but no, that's not me.
Personal commitment.
Pardon me?
What was the personal commitment that you sort of hesitated around?
Oh, the personal commitment was the fact for me to sit down and actually write and introduce myself, what I was doing. And then eventually I did do that. After I took the love survey, I did email you and I mentioned to you that I have lived in Michigan for 34 years, that you mentioned Jack Boland and the Unity of Warren. At that time, it was called Unity of Warren. And then
Church of Today.
Church of Today, yes, Church of Today. And then I became aware of it when Marianne Williamson was a minister there, and it became Renaissance Unity. So that was in the early 80s. And I was new to Michigan, and a friend of mine introduced me to the Unity Renaissance, and she was more interested in the A Course in Miracles, because that's also what Marianne Williamson did. She was part of that. Well, she's written books on all that too. So we would go once in a while, and that's how I found out that Jack Boland had been a minister there. And he had this beautiful real estate property that was huge. The actual sanctuary, or where they had the services, was a big auditorium.
It would seat 3,000 or 4,000, 5,000 people. I'm not sure that it ever had that many going after Jack died and after Marianne Williamson was there, because numbers started dwindling.
Right, and they would have, Marianne Williamson did bring in Carolyn Miss, Deepak Chopra, of course, Wayne Dyer, and the auditorium would fill up. It would fill up for these people that would come in and do their presentation. So that's how I was more involved with it. But it was a drive. It's a 45-minute drive from where I live. So, and we kind of, my friend and I, we just wouldn't go all the time. We weren't consistent with it. So life goes on. I have a son who's 27 years old. I became involved. Well, when I first moved here to Michigan from California, I was involved in finance. I was,
An example of repeating patterns
yeah,
and shifts. So talk a little bit about the repeating patterns and shifts.
my repeating patterns basically I find are in relationships. Relationships. So when I left California, I was in, I had left California because I had, it had been 2 years that I had broken up from a 7-year relationship, and which I thought we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. All right. But in that relationship, I learned about materialistic things. I learned about not being who I truly am, because, I dressed a certain way. I dressed to please the community that I was involved with. And I moved from the San Francisco Bay Area to the Los Angeles area to help this man open up a business. So there was a certain personality that I felt I had to portray. And he was busy opening his business, and I was busy trying to conform to what I thought maybe he wanted. And it turned out that it wasn't supposed to be that. And at the time I was working in, from Northern California to Southern California. I left the banking industry and I managed a credit union in the Thousand Oaks area. We used to live in Malibu. So we broke up. I was devastated. Went back, and well, I didn't go back home at the time. I didn't go back to Northern California. I stayed in Southern California, but I felt that it was not what I was supposed to be doing. Southern California was not where I felt home. And
This is
the
really
man,
important, because at some point there's something in you that begins to know it's done. And I brought an example of that in my own life. This is a piece of driftwood. I keep it in on my desk to remind me of those points in my life when something within me knows it's done. And it was during the ending dissolution and devastation that I was feeling in my second marriage. And I flew to Rochester, New York, to try to make it work, and then one more time. And then at one point, I knew it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to happen. And I called a taxi, packed my bags, put them in the taxi, went to the airport, rented a car, because my plane to return flight was not for another week. And I drove from Rochester to Cape Cod.
wow.
And I sat on the beach in Cape Cod, crying, feeling like, oh my God, my whole life is over. And sitting in the sand was this piece of driftwood. I picked up the driftwood, put it in my purse, and wrote a poem. I don't know where the poem is. I'd love to find it sometime. But I still have the driftwood. It's my symbol. At one point, it works until it doesn't. And at one point, you're done.
It's interesting you pick up driftwood. I find rocks that are in the shape of hearts. So, and I have a collection. I have a rock collection that they are all rocks that are in the shape of a heart. So, yep, the gentleman that I was with for 7 years, he is from Michigan. So it's interesting to me how I ended up in Michigan, growing up, because I grew up in California. So anyway, so we broke up. 2 years after we broke up, his sister got a hold of me and asked me if I would consider coming out to visit his mom and dad. the family, just the family. And of course, I said, yeah, I think enough time has passed. I can handle this. I can actually handle being out where I felt, I felt comfortable. I felt that this was going to be a part of my life at one time. So I come out here to Michigan. It was a Labor Day week. And lo and behold, I go to the Labor Day. It's a small town. And this is, to me, USA. This is just the epitome of what I find Americana. So in downtown Marine City, they had a Memorial Day parade. And they had all veterans come out, and you have the little leaguers come out in their uniforms, and they walk down the main street, and you have the fire engines blaring their sirens, and kids are throwing out candy. And to me, I was like, wow, this feels so welcoming. This feels like home.
Well, I want everyone to feel the love. This is when you know you're aligned. It's when you're feeling the love in everything. The sirens, the candy, the parades. Go ahead.
That's exactly what it was. I mean, yeah, I was back in the mode of love, right? And lo and behold, Christy, which is my friend, my ex-boyfriend's sister, happened to walk by this gentleman who's standing there with a mutual friend of Bruce's and my friend and I. And of course, this is a small town, all right? So everybody knows everybody. So Christy and I, my friend, she says, I want you to meet a friend of mine that I've been in love with for a long time. And I looked at him and I said, oh my God, I said, hi, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And Christy and I walked away and I said, I want to get to know him. Just like, holy cow. He seems very, very nice. And so.
Let me pause and say, how many people on the call have had that moment when you recognize someone and you knew you wanted, hold your hands up so people can see. How many you knew, you recognized them? Go ahead.
So that was the Saturday. That afterwards, of course, Christy says, well, we're gonna go to watch a Little League game. We're gonna have, and I had hot dogs. I watched a Little League game. I swang on swings in a playground. And what was really interesting, this person that I wanted to meet thought that was so neat for me to do something so childlike, swing on swings, eat hot dogs. I don't eat hot dogs. I mean, I'm into health, right?
Another verse from scripture, you must become as a child again in order to know the kingdom of God.
Right.
That's the words of Jesus, become as a child.
So we, that evening, somehow, we went back to the house and we had dinner, we had a barbecue, and this fellow, and his name is Jim, he just happened to have perch, or which is one of the big fish in the area, or walleye. Walleye is another fish here. And again, this is all new to me. I mean, to a certain degree, because it's like out in California, nobody seemed to be doing things like this. Everything was about materialistic stuff. So to me, this was really cool. And we had dinner, and
your world in Santa Monica, everything was materialistic.
Yes, my world in Malibu. Yes.
Tustin is a small town in California where it's not quite as materialistic, but Orange County is very orange. Very achievement oriented.
So for the following week, this gentleman and I seemed to meet at different times. Like I'd walk into a store and there he was. And I walk into, let's say I walked into the small town drugstore. He's just happy. He happens to be with one of his sons, which I knew that he had two boys. and he's holding a pop bottle in his hand. Okay, they call it, Coke would be pop around here. So he's holding a pop in his hand. I open the door and he looked at me and he drops the bottle on the floor, and we both get really flustered. Like, how does that happen, right? So anyway, to make a long story short, we spent some time together. He actually asked me to go out on a date, and I did. And lo and behold, I had to go back to California. I came back to California, and all of a sudden he's calling me. We tried to have this long distance relationship, and I said, this is not going to work. I said, we're going to have to figure out a way to see if we are meant to be with each other or not. And he suggested that I come out for a month. And it just so happens that my job let me do that. They let me take a leave of absence for a month, for 30 days, to see if this relationship between this man and I would work. And it did. So that was in September. October, I fly home, and we decide that yes, it's going to work. So he says, can you move? And I said, no problem, I can do that right away. So I packed up my stuff, had movers. I said, but I don't want to drive out cross country by myself. So he flew out to California. We went up to Northern California. I said goodbye to my mom and my family, and my mom just couldn't believe it. And we left, and here I am. November 7th, I came into Michigan, and November 7th of 1986, we were married in 1987, spring, April Fool's Day. And he
now,
and
I want everyone to realize the theme of our call today is living a God-centered life. You can substitute a word here and you're going to see the story. Living a
love-centered life. Yeah.
In every piece of Rebecca's story. And if you've related to pieces of Rebecca's story and thought, oh my God, that happened to me. Oh my God. Oh, I felt that way. I love hot dogs. I love parades. I've met someone and saw them across a crowded room. Those are your signs that you're living a God/love-centered life. Love and God are synonyms.
Yep. I understand that. I do. So got married. 6 years later, we had a son. We have a wonderful son. And then things started falling out of favor. Things started, yeah. I wasn't finding any more stones that had love, that had the image of a heart anymore. I was more involved in metaphysics. I got involved in healing. I started seeing a side of me that was calling to me again. So I decided to look up massage school and decided to go to school. And it was interesting because what happened was a beauty salon here in Michigan hired me without really having any experience with massage or anything. I mean, this man knew that for some reason he says, you have a gift. So I learned how to do a basic massage on a 3x5 card. I had a little recipe. You do this on the arm, you do effleurage 3 times on the arm, you do 3 times, you do petrissage on the arm. I had this recipe that I would follow from the arms all the way down to the leg. You flip them over and you did the same thing on the other side. But what was really interesting is that each person that came in, they said, I want another massage from you. I want you to work on me again. So the gentleman that I worked for, I said, something's happening here and I really don't understand what it is. And I said, I need to get educated. I want to know more. So he and I actually found a school that had just opened up 6 months prior to me being hired. And I took this program in massage therapy, and that's what I've been doing ever since. I'm a licensed massage therapist. I opened up my own studio in 2008. That was interesting because I guess as I reared up as a horse, I reared up my legs, and I said, I'm doing this. Regardless of what you may think, this is my calling. This is what I want to do. I know I can do this, but why do you want to do that? You don't need to do that. You're fine. You know, you can stay home, you can do whatever. No, I need to do. So anyway, I bought a place.
You were being called, Rebecca. This
Yes,
is
and yes,
it's
and
that
again,
inner voice again that is calling you into your next part, your next stage, your next
yes,
platform, your next destiny part, your next and the next turn in this spiral that is your repeating pattern. And each time you go around that spiral, it's a shift in consciousness, it's a shift in vibration. No longer are you attracted to hot dogs. You're now attracted to massage.
right, right.
It's a whole different vibration. It doesn't lessen your love for those moments in time that were about parades and beauty in them. It means that you simply have cycled into the next vibratory field in this
Right.
field of light.
And that vibratory field,
body, and the massage is an integration of the body.
correct.
So let's, but because we're running a little short on time, let's shift. Did you do the treasure hunt with calling your friend and asking about Jack?
Yes. So what happened here is after you and I hung up, I continued on the internet, and I went and found the Macomb Daily newspaper had an article, but they wouldn't let me read it all because they wanted me to subscribe to the paper. Anyway, the actual building, the Renaissance Unity Church in Warren, closed their doors in 2018, and they moved down to Ferndale, which Warren and Ferndale are about 15-20 minutes apart. All right. And that is that, but and the address that I had given you was the address that was showing up from the website that I had gone to on 11 Mile Road. But they are in a different location. They are in Ferndale. And so that's, pardon me?
They're meeting now in a high school auditorium.
Correct. Yes. And that's about the only thing that I found out. That's as far as I got. I did call the number
Go ahead.
I did call the number that I gave you, but nobody answered. So I don't know if it was just an off day and I thought, well, I'll leave it at that. If I need to go back to this, I will. And when I get called to do it, as far as, spirit, I'm really trusting on the Holy Spirit guiding me these days. And I'm very aware that God is always with me. And that's also love. Like you said, you're right. Absolutely. I really try to have that vibration. I'm conscious of it. I'm more aware of it all the time.
Okay.
So
awesome. Thank you. And I've loved everything you said. And the other thing that I absolutely loved in your email was the way you signed off, in his favor and glory. Is that something you say often?
No, which I find that very interesting. I had received a text earlier before I had talked to you. And in that text, I actually mentioned to this person, in his favor and glory. I ended it that way. Anyway, so I liked the way I felt when I said it. All right. And I actually looked up some words, and everybody's text, or when you write emails, it's either blessings or peace and love, or, and I thought, no, I need to get a little creative. I need to come from a deeper place. And that's what I came up with. Because grace, to be in God's graciousness, his kindness, and that's the way I felt. Favor, I understand. I mean, I felt again that childlike, that being a childlike, that favor. I'm in God's favor and his glory. So yeah, that's the second time I've ended an email that way. And you're the first one that actually has said something in reference to that. I just find it very creative and very the energy that I feel from that, I resonated with it.
I love the words you just said. I liked the way I felt. So I want everyone on the call to pay attention to those words and remember the times in your life where you really felt that. I liked the way I felt. I loved the way I felt. Something in your heart was absolutely resonating. So thank you, Rebecca. It's just been wonderful talking with you. So
Thank
beautiful.
you.
And I want everyone to understand everything that we have said, that Rebecca and I have talked about, is related to the theme of the call: living a love-centered life. Whether you recognize it or whether you don't, when you're feeling it, when you know it, you're on track. When you're out of alignment, you're off track. Time to look, feel, know, and from a higher place. So now I want to bring in Judy for a minute and tell us about the synchronicity. Judy. Christy, can you find her and unmute her?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, spotlighting you.
Okay. When I read your email, hold on, I see the host has spotted. Okay. When I read your email, I was in a hurry, and I still want to go back and reread it again. But anyway, when you got to the part about the book, that I would like to hear your story about that book. But anyway, you mentioned it was written by Robert Hudson. My maiden name was Hudson, and my father was Robert. And no, I think it's Philomena. Okay, I don't see you right now, Philomena, but thank you very, very much, honey. You sent me the link towards it. I have gotten it. I have not read it yet, but that's on my agenda to do either this afternoon or tonight. And I'm really excited about reading it. It's just a neat thing to have happen, and I will be thinking of my father as I read it, and I bet there will be some familiar sounding things in there. So that's it.
See, these are all parts of the treasure hunt. Something shows up in what someone is saying, and all of a sudden, Spirit is saying, pay attention. This is important for you. Pay attention. So in my dream, by the way, there's a whole lot of words in my email that I'm not going to talk about today. And if you wonder about what they mean, Google them. There's lots of information. What I want to, thank you, Judy. So absolutely incredible. And thank you for being on the weekend conference with me. How exciting that was.
I really enjoyed it a lot, and I'm loving Paul's book. I'm about halfway through the book now. It's a real turnaround book. He made me feel wonderful because he confirmed a lot of things that I believed and that I had learned years ago. And then I was suspicious of some stuff, but never went forward with it because they were suspicious only. And oh, wow, he is wonderful. He gave me reference to a struggle that I have gone through. So both the conference and the book was absolutely perfectly timed, and I loved it. So thank you for telling me about it, Marge.
See, it does absolutely no good for me to tell anyone anything. If they don't have the ears to hear, it won't matter. If they don't have the eyes to see, it won't matter. All that anyone can do is to simply speak from their heart, be authentic and totally real. And almost always that comes out of sharing something in the form of a story. It's not going to be intellectual. It's going to be something that comes from your heart. Your intellect is not what your soul is about. Your human story sometimes goes after the intellectual things, but it is your heart that what is the heart-centered energy. And so I want to talk about the dream, because that's also part of the deep dive. And what I told just a paragraph or two in the email. And what is really, really important is that when you have a dream and there's, say, two people you know in it, maybe yourself and another person, or that other person and somebody else, the dream is not about them. The dream is using the image of someone you know and something you can relate to in order to tell you about a part of yourself. I learned this when I studied Gestalt, and Gestalt was an extremely important part of the work of Fritz Perls. And in the recorded messages, which go back a long time ago, of the therapist, different therapists working with Gloria, it's called the Gloria tapes. There was a Gestalt therapist. There was a one that used a different method and another one that used another method. And then some asking them which was most effective. Gestalt and Gestalt dream work came out as being the life transforming one. Dreams, every single part of the dream is you. The people are parts of you. The scenes are parts of you. So in my dream, if you read the email, you may have to go back and look at it later. I'm finding myself below ground in an ice storm, in tunnels of ice and snow. What does that mean? It's the double spiral, that picture that we looked at the beginning of the call. It's the double spiral. The higher realms are the realms that are of the human plane and then of the divine plane. The lower realms are the destructive. They're the realms where we're stuck. And on David Hawkins' scale, it's everything below 200, including grief. And all of us have been there sometimes. Shame is there, for example. Those are the icy places, the frozen places in us. And the tunnels were there. And I didn't know if they were a maze where you bump into dead ends and you have to find your way back out. I didn't know if they were a labyrinth where you go to the center and then it takes you around and around and around, but ultimately you get to the center and you can back out, come back out. But in those ice tunnels, I found one person that I knew, and it was Blair Tabor. Well, very interestingly, you all know Blair, or many of you know Blair Tabor. He's now on the Trinity, the Triad team at Unity in Tustin, a longtime friend of mine, a Unity minister for many, many years. And it's so amazingly important because Blair and I both have the same kind of deep love for unity. I mean, this is not about any individual church. I've known Blair since he was a minister in Northern California, and it's just incredible when you know someone over 30 years and you know all of their work, you see them at conferences, you develop this deep kind of friendship. Blair in my dream represents the part of myself that is deeply, deeply connected, spirit, soul, and body, to unity as a worldwide movement. It's where I got my ordination. Adventist churches still aren't ordaining women. I had to go through that shift in the spiral. Now we're back to your story, Rebecca. I had to do that shift out of one realm and to go to another realm, because the realm of the SDA setting would have never given me the ordination. And I became a Unity minister. However, there is a Judy that shows up in the dream. I thought when I first saw it, Ed, you'll recognize this name. Judy was my next door neighbor in the desert. And Ed and I went out there and went over to her house one time to watch a New Year's game on television. And I thought, oh, that's it. That's a Judy in my life. Then I realized, no, there's a Judy on this call. And it's Judy that went with me to that conference. And Judy shows up in the dream. So there's something in Judy that's also searching. And that's probably why she signed up for the conference. And that part of me is still searching. It's why I signed up for the conference. I had all of these questions about involution and evolution. I didn't feel like Stages had it all. And I was looking for more answers. I got them. But Judy says to me, because by that time I had lost track of where Blair was. And Judy says in the dream, oh, I know how to get back to the crown room. I'll bet that Blair is there because that's where John Rankin is. And I thought, oh, let's go back to the crown room. Now, let's talk about the crown room for a minute. Crown is another definition for corona. Guess what we're in the midst of right now? A pandemic that was ignited by the corona virus. Is it possible that the coronavirus is part of what Spirit used to tell everyone on the planet to go to their rooms and think it over for a while? Is it possible this was a way of stopping the frenzy of materialism and the frenzy of separation and the frenzy of all of the kinds of issues that still exist? Is it a possibility that it was Spirit, the crown room's way of putting the entire world on pause and absolutely taking out, saying, there's some people it's time to bring across the veils, where their next levels of learning are across the veils. And that applies to 500,000 Americans. So it's really, I mean, I'm not trying to tell you this is what it's all about. I just tell you something that came into my awareness as a result of a dream. And it involved Blair, it involved Judy, and it involved John Rankin. So who was John Rankin? Well, I knew about him briefly because Blair had mentioned him in one of his early sessions that I listened to at Unity in Tustin. I think it was over New Year's, and the White Stone ceremony. So I called Blair this morning and I said, tell me about John Rankin. He said, oh, he was my first Unity minister. He was at the Houston church. He was there only for 8 or 10 years. He was a mystic. He was like way out mystic. He's taught all kinds of really eclectic things. He taught things like the I Ching. Well, guess what? The I Ching is part of Tao. The other person on the team in the triad now at Unity in Tustin is Craig Phillips, and he teaches the Tao. That's the I Ching. Well, that's what John Rankin taught also. And he also taught, Blair told me, the 12 powers as being a developmental framework. And I went, right back to when I wrote a book when I was in ministerial school. And I used to go home and pray, ask, invite, invoke Charles Fillmore to come and write through me. And he did, or whatever a voice did. And in that process, I put the 12 powers into a circle and cut them up into a pie, and showed how people could fill in different colors where they thought they were on the pie relative to the 12 powers. Really, really interesting to me. And he taught all kinds of very, very advanced kind of mystical philosophies, and Blair mentioned Hermes, and he said when he retired, I said, well, what was most important to you in the time that because it was brand new to Blair. He went to it because there was a church near him. And I said, what was most important to you? And he said, oh, the Wednesday night classes. He said he explored all kinds of different spiritual ideas. He would teach for about an hour, and then we would take a break, and then he would come back, and we had another half hour, 20 minutes or a half hour that was meditation. And he said that just totally began to draw me in. It's why I wanted to become a Unity minister. And I said, well, whatever has happened to him, or well, he's no longer on this plane. He's gone through the veils. But when he retired, Blair said he became a priest in the ancient church of Antioch, which is a very high metaphysical, mystical church. And it includes teachings like Unity, or teachings like Fillmore, and many, many others. Well, a lot of the teachings of Fillmore are in the archives. David Hawkins calibrated some of them in his own handwriting, he and Myrtle's own handwriting in the 900s, but they've never been published. And even when they have been, they've been edited out by publishers who thought that they could write it better than Charles Fillmore said it. And so a lot of it's lost, except for in the archives now. And he said I would come on Sundays, but I always went to Sunday and Wednesday. And he said in the Sunday morning services, he always turned the Bible stories into your own life. And I thought, oh my God, that's Walter Wink. That's how I teach the Bible stories. Make them all experiential. It's exactly what Called by Love is about. It's exactly what this call is about. Make it into your own story. Bring your own life into the story. Until you do that, all you're doing is letting a whole bunch of words, intellectual words, run around in your head, and that never breaks through the 500 mark. There's love as it's understood, all from 0 to 1,000. but it doesn't vibrate at the level of light until it goes love and above at 500. And you can look at last week's call. By the way, Ed, you told me you didn't understand how last week's call was about partnering with the beloved. Every single moment in your life, Ed, has been partnering with the beloved, all at different levels of vibration, all at different points in time. Your time that you knew me was partnering with the beloved. Your time with your children is partnering with the beloved. Your time in working as you do, and I see your sign up on the wall, your Biden sign, as you're on the Democratic Central Committee, that's a way you partner with the beloved. Everything in our lives is partnering with the beloved. Now, there's others of us on this call that I know are not Democratic. I know some people on this call that are Republican. All of their interactions with people reflect their partnering with the beloved. You mean the beloved is a Republican as well as a Democrat? Of course. The beloved is everyone on the planet. The way I see the beloved in Donald Trump is because I look through the eyes of his daughter. His daughter adores him. Listen to her speech when the last time at the White House. You feel the beloved in the way people look through the eyes of love. So look for that. That's where you find the beloved. What we are about is building the bridges between all of the souls in order that ultimately we can find the one soul within us, and then the one, where Unity has a song that says, I behold the Christ in you, where we behold the Christ in every single person we meet. No matter what their color, no matter what their race, no matter what their political persuasion, no matter what their religious orientation, no matter whether they're Buddhist or whether they're Christian, no matter whether they're Hindu or whether they're Jewish, we behold the essence of the beloved in them. This is what Called by Love is about. And we only have about 15 minutes left, and I want to open it up for anyone that wants to comment. I hope you have seen moments of your own personally living a love-centered or a God-centered life. So Patty's raising her hand. Patty, come on and let's bring Patty on.
Hi, Marge. Hi, everybody. I have two questions for you.
Oh,
Marge,
by the way, I have an appointment with you to do a dialogue. I'll be calling you. I'm behind on them. And I also need to.
after hearing Rebecca's story, I'm reminded of the Enneagram, how, as I recall, there were, and I'm not an Enneagram student, but what stuck with me is that there are three tendencies. Some of us are sexual, some of us are social, and some of us are self-preservationists.
Yes.
So I'm wondering how that Enneagram.
We have a stack of them. We're all of them, but we have a stack. So do you know what's on top of your stack?
Yeah, self-pres.
Self-pres?
Right.
What's on top of my stack is sexual.
Right. So
Okay,
so
what's in
listen.
the middle on your stack?
What's on the middle? Probably social.
Okay, on the top of Fabian's stack is social.
So
What's
listen,
at the bottom of your stack?
well, I guess the bottom would be sexual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So listening to
All have
Rebecca,
all of them.
I heard Rebecca talking about her attraction to her guy, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe Rebecca's a sexual, and I'm just wondering how the love stages, do they at all correspond or relate to those Enneagram typings?
We'll look at that when we do our call. We'll see
Okay.
if we can find the answer to that question. And remember that you are all of it. It's not that you're one or the other. It's we never transcend and trash. It's
Right.
always about transcending and including. And there's also about 4 quadrants. It's about our individual self. It's about our we self. This is John Claude, who's in this group sometimes, is very involved in we space. And I'm both in individual and in we space, because I love the we space of this call, for example. But there's also then the manifestation of it. My body, as someone who's in their early 80s, is not the same body I had when I knew Ed when I was in my 30s. I don't move around as easily. I've got gray hair. So our bodies change. We have to, yeah, Ed just rubbed his head. He had hair when I knew him. Our bodies change. We can keep track of our bodies. And also our we space systems change. Unity of Tustin is going to have to change as it shifts into the digital age. Otherwise, it'll die. And I'm seeing John Claude raise his hand. Can you bring John Claude in also?
Oh, I still have one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
So Marge, you have a lot of people taking the love stage test and you're conferring with some of us. I was hoping that somehow you and the powers that be could develop a composite of Unity's we space love stages. Can you put all of our
I could not do that individually. One person can't do it in the realms that you're talking about wanting to go. I did it when I was senior minister, and it came on in the numbers of that quick score test. You'll see a 4.5 level, and that was the manifested realm that Unity of Tustin was at when I was there. It has not gotten beyond that. In fact, it may have dropped, because there's certain things that you see, that doors opening and doors closing. And the fact that people have left that were many very deeply involved in that realm when all the master teachers were coming in, it was based a lot on the vibrational fields of master teachers. I didn't consider myself a master teacher, by the way. I considered myself someone who wanted to sit at the feet of the master teachers and learn, and decided it would be cheaper than me traveling and spending $2,000 or $3,000 to fly someplace and be with somebody like Llewellyn Von Lee, to bring Llewellyn Von Lee to Unity of Tustin, and I could donate $3,000 to Unity of Tustin. That would be the same amount of money that I would have to personally spend to fly to him. And then everyone at Unity of Tustin could come and hear him. And that's what I did. It was a strategic, 4.5 is strategic. It was a strategic decision. Some of the people at Unity and Tustin have gone, and I'm talking about you and I'll talk about this more, into the 5.0 realm. And not everyone. You may or may not have, or your destiny path, this is my hunch because I know you so well, Patty, is that your destiny path is very similar to mine, and it's about teaching love. And you're doing that right now. You're doing it through teaching A Course in Love. And
I don't see myself as a teacher except as I model it. I just like living it.
that's it.
I'd rather be a student.
That's it. I want to bring John Claude in. Where are you, John Claude?
Yeah. That's just a quick one. For everybody who don't know me here, and the reason I'm here is because of Marj. She's the one that brought me, enlightened me, and so So there's a deep sense of gratitude to you, Marj. But what I found out, I mean, I sat into there, I enjoyed the sharing, but you just said something that was so profound. I never saw it that way. The thing that you talked about, Donald Trump and his daughter looking at him, she saw the love of him that maybe I don't. And it's just a matter of looking for people that love that person so you see them differently. And that, to me, I never thought of that, because sometimes you struggle how to look beyond that and to love, but look for the people that love them. And then you see the truth of that divinity that you talk about. That, if nothing else, by God, that nugget is like so valuable. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
See, we all have all of it. Now, is Donald Trump center of gravity at the level of love? I don't think so, because he couldn't say such hateful things.
Right.
If it were, it would be impossible for him. He's still in the duality realms. And so, but how can we build the bridge? I probably would never have any impact personally on Donald Trump, because he wouldn't even like what I am. But there are people that I can impact who know other people who know Donald Trump. We all plant seeds in every moment, with every thought, with every feeling, with every response. We never know who we're imprinting. We don't know who. Notice how much we talked about Jack Boland today, and I thought I might talk about more. The reason Jack Boland is someone that I put his picture in the email I sent out to everyone. He built a model that showed me the structure to build a church. Did he build the mystical community with mystical teachers? No. He was a 12-step person. And you came out of the realms that Jack Boland saw as the awakening path. You understand that. I know that, because I know when you came to Unity when I was the senior minister.
Right.
And so did Jack Boland know the same things I do? No, he knew a different realm where he was the master, absolute 5,000 seat master of it, the 12-step program. And he filled every seat when he brought people like Marianne Williamson in, when he brought people like Wayne Dyer in. He filled every seat of those 5,000 seats. How can we do that? We can never do it by making each other wrong. It's never going to work. Have you ever done anything because somebody deeply criticized you and hated you?
No.
Have you changed your life because of that?
No. That's true. No.
No. Have you ever done anything because people tried to throw you out?
No. No.
No, I haven't either. I own the part of me that is an INFP on the Myers-Briggs digs in my heels, in fact, if that happens to me. We need to understand ourselves more clearly in order that we can see and seed God more clearly, in order that we can be love and seed love more clearly. Love and above.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm so grateful for you, John Claude.
Thank you.
And I'm grateful that you and I can know what love truly is in all the years we've known each other. How long have you been at Unity of Tustin?
Well, it's getting to, it's about 10 years. 10 years?
10 years?
Yeah.
More than that, because you came in when I was there.
Right. So yeah, it's about 12 years. 12 years.
12 years.
Right, right.
All right.
Yeah.
And we are out of time. Anyone have one final thing they want to say before we conclude for today? I don't see any hands going up. Jim, you come on and do our closing prayer. Open up Jim's microphone. Jim DeFontis. You don't see Jim go speechless very often.
No, you don't want to do that to me, do you? Really?
Of course. Come on, Jim.
Oh my gosh.
Ah,
I don't do prayers, you guys.
now you do.
This is my first prayer in forever out loud. Okay, let's close our eyes and take a deep breath. Let's take another deep breath. I want to thank Marge for opening her heart, her mind, and sharing her experiences with those of us today that are on this call. We've all come from different places, different reasons to be here today. But I think during this call, the separation between us was narrowed and we became one. Listening to Marge as she goes up and down, left and right, through, showing us what's possible, what she sees, what she experiences, offering us that opportunity to go on a self-travel like that, if we so desire. I'm grateful to have known Marge and to have this opportunity to be with her at this point in her life, to better understand myself, my brain, my heart, my intentions, my present, my past, with a future that's unfolding and transforming, helping me to understand what's possible and what perhaps my role is, and even as she encourages me to accept perhaps as what the divine has planned for me. My heart is beating 120 beats a minute right now, so so thank you for giving me the courage and the love and the wisdom. God bless all of you. I love each and every one of you. Amen.
Oh, wow. And for those of you who aren't aware of it, Jim is the
My first, maybe last.
No. The first of many. Jim is the president of the board of Unity of Tustin, called by God, and not always understanding how or what or when or why.
No.
And I just always say to him, give it to the Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
So it is.
And so it is. And let's go to the music. Dream of Love, Liebesstrom.